Hello, welcome into, I don't know what the fuck we're calling this thing, the Discord discussions with the TSK. It rings, so we're fucking rocking with it. We tried to bang one of these out before, and I don't know what happened, got lost in the ether. If it finds out to make its way to the interwebs, it'll be put in the lost episodes, if you will. But it's in catering. It's in catering and hanging out, it's eating wings with the Miz, if you will. This is the TSK, it's a fine group of individuals where we watch damn near any kind of professional wrestling, and yes, that includes the E, and those who hate AEW, AEW is included. We watch it all, and that's because we love pro wrestling, not just, sports entertainment. So because of that, we have deemed ourselves somewhat experts, especially considering the fact that we've been watching fucking longer than some of y'all have been alive. So, if I can introduce everybody very quickly, my man with the greatest Mega Man looking shirt, which is a dub to the man Kenny Omega. This is my man DC, Daniel Crimmage. You've seen him on Max Wrestling before. Then we have my man repping the Brody King shirt, looking like he's straight out of 2006 with the emo love. It's all good in the hood. We call him the boy Kyle. Of course. Absolutely. We look down at my man with the switchblade, the brother of the OGs, the OG fan bam right here, Robert Davis. Oh, my Lord Jesus. And, of course, if you can't recognize that face from some of the greatest fucking food content there is on YouTube, and if you're not fucking with it, we can't fuck with you. None other than my man, Harold Joseph Hunter. We are the TSK and... Well, the topic at hand is one that just it was smoldering hot. It looked to be going one way. Now we're flipping and reversing it. I know the majority of, if not all of us, we've kind of sided with the Bucks over the entire thing. And if you're not understanding what we're talking about the scrum that happened, the post-media scrum that happened between the Elite and Kenny Omega, or not Kenny Omega, and CM Punk. Because of that, there was the immediate. It was the hell of a fallout. Because of that, there has been this complete and total, I guess, bias siding. Either you are on the side of Punk or you're on the side of the Elite. And if you're on the side of the Elite, you're just watching AEW and you're just hanging out, you're loving life. If you're on the side of Punk, well, you're probably bashing everything AEW does. And you know what? We're here to figure out what might just fucking actually happen, because the reality is Dax Hardwood went on, I believe it was his own actual podcast or somebody else's. Thank you. It was his own podcast. And spilt his heart out saying that CM Punk was a guy that not only did he look up to and is great friends with, but he understands what he can bring to the business alongside the Elite. But then again, because of that, there is the immediate, it's too biased. The Elite are only out for themselves and the da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So we're here to negate that. We're here to discuss that. We're here to discuss, is the Elite really out for themselves? Do we think they could be good enough business people in this venture? So whoever wants to jump in and start this out, give me your pros to them working it out. And who apologizes first? Let's go with that.
I think, honestly, I don't think one party is completely innocent and one party is completely guilty. I don't think it's I don't think it's black and white here. As some people would have us believe.
That is probably the only time I've heard that opinion so far. It's the only time. I mean, obviously we've heard it between each other, but as far as anybody on side of a recorded thing, I haven't heard anybody say they're each other to blame. Grown ass adults blew up at each other. Let's keep it funky.
And to be fair, people say, "Oh, it's Punk's fault. It's the Elite's fault." I think some of the blame needs to be on Tony Khan.
1,000%.
The comments that Punk made, Khan should have kind of stepped in and should have been like,
no. I think he was kind of hit.
Deer in a headlight.
Yeah, that's exactly what that was. It's kind of
You
hard.
can see it on his face. You can see it on his face.
Yeah.
Where he's just, what do I do?
You do. You know what I mean? Your top guy is all of a sudden just bashing people that started the company. I agree. I think
While he's sitting right next to you, nonetheless.
That's the worst part of it all.
That makes it much more difficult. I agree. I think both people should apologize.
Yeah.
I think I would say it's more on Punk, because it was as simple as like dealing with this backstage, whereas like
Punk
not on
made
the
it public.
kind of thing.
Thank you.
Exactly, and that's
Short
the
and sweet.
part where I think Punk should apologize first. I think they should mutually apologize and just.
Oh, yeah.
I think Punk should stay in the company. I mean, I don't have any ill will towards it. I don't think he should go down as like one of the best world champions or anything like that. Like, he got his small run, and I think he's good on that. But I think at this point, whoever wants to work with him should work with him, and anybody who doesn't, like clearly Chris Jericho, move on and just don't work with him.
I think it's really easy to be biased in this situation, considering the people that are involved here. You know, a lot of people hate the Elite. A lot of people hate CM Punk. Yeah. You know, when both of them were suspended, you know, we saw the ratings. They went up. Mm-hmm. We were hitting 1 million for a good couple of weeks without them. And, you know, I firmly believe that's because people don't watch AEW because of CM Punk and the Elite.
And I think what that also showed us was that AEW can be just fine without the 4 people.
Agreed. I do think there is a lot of bias in there, though. I think amongst the 5 of us, at least, you know, we can kind of put our own bias aside because I know we do have them, and kind of really kind of work this out.
Okay, so I mean, the overall prowess we're getting at here is working it out, and like I said, Dax had brought it up, and that's the entire reason why we're doing this is because of his exact words, the impact that it had. He showed up. The wrestling world got taken by storm. Some would say it felt like the 90s again. That's a fucking stretch if you're a real fan, honestly. But I mean, it didn't feel strange telling people you're a wrestling fan anymore just because of the impact that Punk had brought. So again, so that's the impact he started with. Let's just say if everybody decides to be grown adults, we shake hands, we deal with whatever. With the conflict that we have with a Chris Jericho, who's plain and simple, we're going to refuse to work with Punk. Is that gonna hinder him coming back? Is that gonna hinder any ratings? Is that going to is this going to cause? Is this the bad sugar in the Kool-Aid?
No, I think there's those people that, you know, CM Punk can murder puppies on air and people will still love him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the same time, you know, the Elite could come out and kick those same puppies and people are still going to love them.
Yeah, no, you know, a bazillion %.
The TSK does not condone animal cruelty.
Not by any means.
Just throwing it out there.
No puppy kicking.
Not here.
Harold, you've been
kicking. On the other hand, that's a different story.
That's a different story.
I must say, Harold, you've been the most quiet one on this entire thing.
For a different podcast.
Absolutely, you're telling me. So I want to ask you too, because like I said, you've been the quietest. The first one I want to ask is because I don't think anybody's really been asked this question yet. If you could put yourself in the shoes of Tony Khan during that incident, how would you handle it differently?
I personally would try to steer the conversation away. You know, just a simple, you know, you bring up a good point, Punk, but let's focus on and then move on to whatever he wants the direction of that title reign to go. Because he had just won the title.
Yeah.
Just won it. That would have been the perfect time to, like you guys said, be a leader, step up, lead the conversation. And it didn't take anything much more than that, you know.
No.
Let's focus on what's the point, you know. Let's focus. So I put blame on Tony Khan for that. One of the big things that I would say I would have an issue with, everybody's saying, let's shake hands, let's be adults about it. It sounds like the best move. However, how many wrestlers now feel uncomfortable with Punk around? Knowing that in any moment he can go public and blast you for anything he feels that you've done wrong or anything that he believes about you in that stance.
I think at that point, then you need to limit Punk, because I don't think he's going to go out and do that on TV, as far as like go out on Dynamite and have a media scrum moment.
And he's not a Twitter guy.
Yeah, and I don't. Yeah, he's definitely not a Twitter guy. I think what you do is you just limit him for 6 months to a year. No media scrums, no anything like that. I mean, Tony Khan can monitor his talking on Dynamite by just muting his mic when he kind of sees the direction going sideways.
I see everywhere you're going with that, but and I'm saying we, and I always have to say we. The reality is, when Punk came back, how much of that did you care about who's he going to wrestle? It was about listening to him. That's my thing. That's my biggest issue is like, I like that idea. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, no media scrums, no this, no that. But then you're immediately going to have those diehards, the killing the puppies diehards, that are going to get upset that he's not on the mic. Why is he not getting mic time? What are we doing? You're taking away his this, da-da-da-da-da. You're cutting his Achilles heel.
I think a good way to do that, though, is getting him to kind of understand what he can and can't say, and using that time where he's limited and what he can say, and say like he was going to go off the rails and Tony shuts his mic off. Eventually he's going to get to that point and build it up, and they can use it as like a story or like a pipe bomb or whatever and unleash it. And then the whole, just like 2011 when he did the pipe bomb sitting on the stage, he can do the exact same thing and just go off and just let it go off. You know what I mean? No, maybe he can go and like talk to the people backstage to give them like a heads up, because obviously the Elite was not given a heads up. But he could go give a heads up to the people and just say, this is what I'm going to say. I'm going to go off the rails. I understand you might not like it, but it's for the purpose of the show. And the show is, this is what the story I'm building up is. I can't be a pipe bomb anymore until, I get to that point and it explodes kind of thing. I feel like that could work out at the end.
And I think part of it with Punk, given his age and the fact that he's already been hurt twice, I think you have him be a special attraction. Do like kind of like with Brock Lesnar, where you don't have him in all the time. Just every so often, you bring him in for the big shows, All Out, Double or Nothing, whatever. Bring him in for something that makes sense. Keep that name of CM Punk up there.
I agree. I think having him do that, it should reinvent his name, because right now I think his name is a little tarnished, whatever you want to call it. It's definitely tarnished nonetheless. But I feel like if you did that and then you gave him, because everyone's kind of looking at him like the bad guy. There's a couple, the Punk fans. Don't get me wrong, I'm a CM Punk fan, but the diehard Punk fans are like, he's the best thing ever. He's our savior. But there's so many people that hate him, where is he could just play into that and be the heel.
Yeah.
And just crank it, like turn it up. MJF turned up what he did. Punk, do the exact same thing. Turn it up even more. And Mike gets cut off. He gets pissed, of a temper tantrum, whatever. And same thing the next week, goes to try to start something, temper tantrum, because the mic got shut off. And then eventually he's just had it, and then whoever he's kind of aiming at, he gets the match with that, like DC said, at All Out or Double or Nothing or whatever, and then it builds that up. But he doesn't wrestle until then.
No.
I think that would be good.
Okay.
I mean, he even said, like when he first came back, he said, I'm not the CM Punk I was in 2011.
Oh shit.
He even said, "My body can't not do it." And he's got to remember that. Like, he can't go and be the guy that he was, 10 plus years ago. He's not that guy anymore.
No.
He's not a Jericho who does this regularly. And
For a fucking rock star, and he can hang in the
Jericho's
fucking ring at the same time.
You can't do a 15-foot stage dive either.
And you had mentioned Jericho not working with him. Well, if Tony Khan tells Jericho you're working with him, then you'll do your job and you will work with him.
I wonder, so I wonder how that'll play off, because like what you're saying, Chris has always said, because Vince has told him, you might not like this, you might not like that, but it's what's best for business.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I think that should be the starting.
I've got to cut you off, because this is where, and again, raise my hand, call us the biased move on this one. Is he worth the possible toxicity in the locker room? Is he truly worth that? Is he coming back going to guarantee you weekly million views and is not going to have...
He wasn't doing it.
Thank you. See,
It was on a good term. He wasn't pulling the ratings that everyone expected anyway.
Mm-mm.
So then, because again, in this instance, you guys have been the two quietest, Rob and Harold. You guys have been the two quietest on this one. Is he worth?
Because we're not CM Punk fans.
Well, but that's exactly the whole point of this entire thing. You know what I mean? Kyle's already got storylines written for him, which is obviously the main goal for him to come. If he were to come back, is you use him in long-term storybooking in ways that actually can impact the company positively. But again, my two men like myself, we're realists around here. Is he worth possible locker room toxicity? Is he worth the bashing of your employees to the point where the diehards are willing to say that the Bucks can't run a Target, knowing goddamn well they sell out the toy section every month?
Right.
I'm gonna let Harold answer that one, but I got a response. So.
I love it. Okay.
Personally, I don't think he's worth it. I mean, granted, I'm not a CM Punk fan. I never have been. But at the same time, I don't want to see him go out like this either. I mean, because
Understood.
This is not the way to go out.
As far as CM Punk being worth it, I mean, CM Punk has had a history. Like Rob said, I'm not a fan of CM Punk either. And that stems back to when he was back on the indies, and I hung out with a few indie guys that had worked with him. And this seemed to be the situation in every locker room CM Punk has been in, where he's seen as this jerk, seen as this guy who's difficult to work with. But, he has his group of people that he works with, like FTR and things like that, that back him, that fully back him. Those are his boys. Neither is to blame fully, but I don't think Punk is worth it based on the history and based on what he's brought to AEW so far. He really hasn't benefited that much.
To even kind of piggyback on that, Dax was telling these stories about, CM Punk taking the boys out for dinner, handing out, $500 Starbucks cards, like we've got enough negativity on CM Punk for a lifetime. Everybody's got their stories. Like, where are all those positive stories? I mean, I like I said, I don't care for the guy, but those positive stories are cool to hear. And, it'd be nice to, hear some more of that. Where are CM Punk's boys that are going to back him up? Because I know at one point Dax wasn't either, because I know he told the story that when CM Punk first got here, and, he tells Cash, if this MFer has, something to say to me, we're going to have a problem. And I believe Dax, a man's man, he's got the mustache to prove it.
Mm-hmm.
He'll have words.
Big time.
If need be.
If need be. Kyle, I'm dying to hear what you got. Oh, wait, hold on. D, go ahead, D.
Punk can generate money. Is it worth it bringing him in, keeping him? Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, it's CM Punk. You knew what you were getting when you signed him on. You knew.
True.
After everything that went on with him in WWE, you knew how when he left in 2011, you knew. When he left in 2014, you knew. So his attitude, should we really be surprised? Really? I mean,
yes and no.
Before he comes back, I kind of do want to see everybody's dad, Bob the Fish, and CM Punk in that kick. Was he pushing for a kickboxing?
I think he is a
like
kickbox fight. Let's go with that. I'm down for a
Ain't
kickboxing fight.
happening.
So,
Oh no, I think it was a
as far as,
jiu-jitsu fight. I don't know. It was one of the two, but yeah, they
It was
wanted
one
to
of
shoot
them.
something or another.
That's one of them, but I just want to see Bob the Fish drive the minivan up,
Take him out.
take him down, and then go pick up the kids from soccer practice or something.
There you go.
maybe he can borrow Sue's minivan.
So
There it is.
So
Kyle, I'm dying to hear what you got to say.
Okay.
He just wrote 4 episodes of Dynamite, so
Factual.
I guess. Six,
Like I said every week on Max, bro. TK, we're waiting for the checks in the mail, big dog. You just hit me up,
Big
You
dog.
don't even gotta get checks. Just give me tickets.
right? Shit, this motherfucker cheap.
Right? No, it's not storyline based. As far as like what he's brought, so I actually did a comparison to this, and it was a lot of like I was looking up numbers from NXT and AEW.
Okay.
Okay. And one week when I did it, I think NXT was like 600 and something thousand, 600 and some change. AEW was like 900 and some change. And I added those two numbers up. It was exactly, like to the T, exactly 1,000 viewers different from what Monday Night Raw got.
I remember that.
So when people sit there and say, well, Punk isn't bringing 1 million or 2 million or anything like that, AEW is never going to get that. They're going to get it occasionally. They get the, 1,087,000 or 1 million,
They got it.
maybe.
I'm gonna be that guy.
They're never
They
going
got
to get
it,
it consistent ever.
but they got it before he was even there.
Understand that.
That is my first immediate argument. I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's my first immediate argument. They had gotten 1 million before he had even gotten there.
Exactly, 100%. Yeah, they got it the leading weeks up to, and I think it was a lot of speculation. But yeah, that summer, like that, what was it? Like that June, July, they had multiple millions. And I'm not saying they're not gonna hit 1 million. What I'm saying is they're never gonna hit it consistently, week after week after week after week. I don't give a fuck who you put on there. Roman Reigns can show up tomorrow. And is it going to hit 1 million? Probably. Is it going to drop down in 4 weeks? Yeah. They're never going to do that. It's just not the basis they're going to have. But the fact that their pay-per-views were the highest selling pay-per-views of all time when Punk was in there. He was top 3. I think he was number 2 on top 25 merchandise sold on Pro Wrestling Tees, just behind Danhausen. And the fact that this happened, when did this happen? June. That he was only in the company 6 months out of the year, and he was number 2.
Okay.
He was a massive draw. Ratings will never be the true tell. You know what I mean? SmackDown ratings are always great. You know what I mean? They're always doing 2.1, 2.2. They're on a giant network. When Roman was on Raw wasn't really doing 2.5 million views. Were they doing a little bit better? Yeah, they were doing maybe like 1.4 to 1.8 kind of thing, but they weren't doing consistently 2 million views. They hit it a couple times, but nothing crazy. It's just SmackDown's, I'm guessing, for everybody that watches SmackDown week after week after week, is the better show. It seems to be the better show. I just don't think AEW will ever hit that, but the fact that their numbers and pay-per-views, their ticket sales, their merchandise, everything else was up. Ringside Collectibles, which is the toy distributor, not the maker, but the distributor for all these new AEW figures, CM Punk was number 1. I think he was number 1 and number 3 of like the most sold figure in Ringside Collectibles, and that's everything WWE. That's exclusives. That's hard to get stuff. That's everything. And he was number 1, and I think number 3. He had his chocolate bar figure and then his actual official, like in the line figure.
Okay, you're I'm gonna say it like this because I'm gonna be biased for 2 seconds. You're putting me to sleep. You're putting me to sleep, Kyle. I love you to death, but here's my thing, bro. Because I remember this thing that was the supposed Wednesday Night Wars, where they were racking 92, 90. Was it 920, 925, 934, nines on a consistent basis, and there was no such thing as a Punk. Punk wasn't even. He was an afterthought. You know what I mean? The guy comes in, and I understand. I think it was either you or DC who said, "Well, you have to think about the attitude that comes with him. You have to think about what you get with him." When I signed Dennis Rodman, and he's gonna party every night before the motherfucking game, but if he's gonna get me 15 rebounds, 9 points, and 12 assists, I'm not bitching. But Punk ain't giving me that. Punk's not going out there like my starting center. He's going out there like a guy that I need to have him elevate my talent, which is the same thing I'm doing with my Daniel Bryans, with my John Moxleys.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Aside from ratings, what hasn't he done? I mean, as far as like everything else surrounding the ratings, he's done everything else. The pay-per-view sales are up, the ticket sales are up. The merchandise sales were up. Everything that's like saying, "Oh, I got the."
But no, you said
I might not have got the most points, but I got the most rebounds. I got the most assists. I got the most everything around it. You know what I mean? Which helped the team grow. But maybe I just didn't get the most points in the game.
You brought up
maybe I undershot a little bit.
You brought up Pro Wrestling Tees. What was he ranked on the AEW shop? It wasn't 1 or 2, and it wasn't 3. So
I didn't see the AEW shop one.
Pro Wrestling Tees, of course, bro. He's Stone Cold Steve Austin has a shirt on Pro Wrestling Tees. Mick Foley still has a shirt on Pro Wrestling Tees. I can't count that. That doesn't help AEW. That helps Pro Wrestling Tees.
No. Pro Wrestling Tees is just a distributor. Shop AEW goes through Pro Wrestling Tees. All you're doing is with Shop AEW, you're just saying here's an actual platform for AEW,
gotcha. Okay.
But it still goes through Pro Wrestling Tees.
I'm talking out the side
Pro
of my neck.
Wrestling Tees prints everything for every independent place or independent wrestler pretty much at this point.
Okay, I dig that.
So just because somebody logs on to Shop AEW and buys the Acclaimed, but doesn't buy CM Punk, doesn't mean CM Punk's not outselling them because everyone's ordering on Pro Wrestling Tees. CM Punk on Pro Wrestling Tees sold 100,000 T-shirts in 3 days. I don't know a wrestler that's done that since fucking John Cena and Stone Cold.
True that.
You know what I mean? In 3 days. I'm not saying lifetime. I'm not saying anything like that. In 3 fucking days, they did $1 million in merchandise sales.
Okay.
I mean, who's doing that besides Cena?
I'm seeing your argument. I'm seeing it. Coach, you're dying. Are you dying to get in this? You want to jump in on this? You want to weigh in on this? Are you a Punk lover? Tell me, how would you feel? Have you been listening? Do you understand what we're doing?
I understand what I understand what you're talking about. I'm not really big on CM Punk myself, so I mean.
So then, but this is perfect. Then after you've understood Kyle's point, the merchandise money, the viewership money, the being a big enough name to help garner a bigger ratings number, all this fun stuff and everything in between, is that enough to possibly toxicify your locker room? I hate to make it cut and dry, but that's how it's got to be.
Yeah. To be honest, I think it won't.
Now, do you think? Hold on. Do you think?
I'm not mad at it. Some people agree, some people don't.
Well, no, and that's the entire thing about this. But I mean, now, you don't think it's going to be a positive in what sense of a way? Do you think it's not going to be positive because he's not going to draw numbers, or because it's going to maybe be like a self-implosion?
Well, I mean, if we're talking about positives, I think given when the Elite came back and then Kenny hit that GTS, that kind of opened up this possibility for, a storyline to develop, to which eventually might blow down to a match between Kenny and Punk somewhere. And I think that's a match that everybody wants to see at some point. And people are going to tune in to watch Punk get his ass kicked.
I mean,
that right there is going to be a ratings draw as is. People want to watch Punk get his ass kicked.
Look at his UFC debut.
Yeah.
I really think he should come back, and maybe he's not facing the Elite at first. Maybe he faces, somebody else, and maybe he just fucking squashes people a couple of matches, and then gets the attention of the Elite, and Kenny, beats the shit out of Punk. And you know what I mean? And gives the fans what they want.
Yeah.
There's so many ways around it. Yes, the toxicness can be a thing, but it's as simple as, Tony Khan holding a meeting saying, hey, we are going to we're going to hire Punk. Here's a piece of paper that says, yes, I'll work with him. No, I won't. And if you click no, you'll never work with him. You'll never be in a promo. You'll never be in anything. The worst you got to do is you got to see the coworker. You don't have to talk to him or anything. You see him in the locker room. But everyone's had coworkers that they despise. I mean, I've fucking almost punched out workers before.
But now
everyone has that.
But now does that take the AEW is basically WCW 2.0 narrative and run with it? Because now you have your, I don't want to work with him. I don't want to work with him. I don't want to work with him. I only want to do this. I only want to do. Now, if you're making an exception for Punk, you're going to make an exception for Kenny. You're going to make an exception for Anthony Ogogo if he ever fucking comes back. That's my, and I hate to say it like that. Again, that's the dad thing. If I got to make the rule for you, I got to make it for everybody else.
Well, I mean, not necessarily. You know what I mean? Because it could just be a one-person thing. Everyone just knows how bad Punk is. Here's the thing. I see a lot of people. I mean, you kind of bring up valid points and everything, but a lot of people saying all this stuff about Punk. There's a lot of wrestlers back then that had this exact same heat. A lot of hate towards them in the locker room.
Oh, for sure.
Along the lines of Hogan, the Flairs, the Triple H's.
Shawn Michaels.
Shawn Michaels, perfect example.
The Super Cena, everything. We just didn't hear about it until years and years and years later. But everybody that worked with them understood that they had to work with them, or they were going to be in the locker room, or this and that. How many times have you heard that Triple H stepped on this person, or he's even said it in promos where you have to walk over this person and to get where you want to be? And I'm not saying Punk's out there squashing names to go be the world champion or whatever, but Triple H has done it. You know what I mean? Michaels did it. There's a million people that did it. But there's a good dozen or two that did it. And all these wrestlers still had to work with that throughout all these years. And then they came down later on in podcasts and in interviews and whatnot and said, oh, this guy, he did this, and Flair said this, and, it's just, but they dealt with it at the time. And they were still able to have careers one way or another. And that could be the exact same way with CM Punk. I understand we're a lot more transparent nowadays, where things get out in media, podcasts are made, TikToks, Twitter, whatever. People can just learn to work with people at the end of the day. And that's why I said, where you give the option versus, I want to work with Punk, I don't want to work with Punk. But that doesn't have to be with everything across the board. It's just CM Punk.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just for a short time for his remaining contract of 2 years, 3 years, whatever, and go, hey, these 6 guys are going to work with you for the next 2 years. These are your 6 talents. Make it work. And that's
right. And especially if he's going to be a special attraction, if he's coming out once a month or something, once a pay-per-view.
It makes it easier to work with that.
Exactly. He doesn't even need a lot of guys to really work with.
Yeah. Exactly. You only need a handful, 4 to 6 guys, whoever it is. And maybe at the end, it's Kenny. Maybe at the end they do the finale, which is the Elite versus FTR and Punk. You know what I mean? And then it ends up being Kenny versus Punk, and then Kenny goes over and Punk does his goodbye and says, I'm done with pro wrestling. But at least he gets somewhat of a better way to go out.
Redemption arc.
I'm not a diehard Punk fan at all. I think, both sides handled this terribly, but nobody...
This is not the way to go out.
No, it's not. Nobody deserves this. I don't like Bret Hart either, but I don't think the way he went out should have been the way he went out, but it is what it is. I don't think Punk should have to suffer like that,
And at the same time, if the whole locker room decides they don't want to work with CM Punk, it's not like Tony doesn't have other avenues they can go. Like he can go to New Japan, he can go to AAA, he can go to anywhere else. I mean, just you bring in you bring in Naito, Okada,
Yeah.
Goto.
Exactly. Just give us dream matches at that point. Give people who have never worked with them before.
Kenta.
Oh yeah, there you go. That's a good one right there.
CM Punk.
I mean, we
We've
got
been clamoring.
150 plus talent in AEW. There is
GTS on a pole match.
There we go.
Bring back Bob the Fish for a one night only.
and just fucking bare knuckle fight, whatever it is.
Right.
That cage that Wardlow had. Who did he have that with? I don't remember.
Hager. Jake Hager.
Yeah.
Hager. Yeah. Put that match in effect and put those two fuckers in it, and just let it happen. Let some things happen, and it is what it is. But I don't think Punk should go out. I don't think anybody should go out like this. I don't think anybody should go out injured. I don't think anybody should go out mad and upset everyone because he loved this business. Whether he made enemies or not. I think at the end of the day, he wants to go out on his own terms, and this is not. He might have set his plate or whatever the terminology is, but this is not how he intended to go out. I can firmly trust that that's not how he wanted to go out when he was coming back in.
Agreed. I think we can all agree on that.
For sure.
100%.
All right, I know I wanted to save this for an entire other thing, but we've got plenty of time, so I want to flip the narrative here.
Okay.
Since we talked about Punk and the possibility of him being the toxicity and this and that, let's look at on the other side of the coin, if you will, for those negative heads on TikTok. Is the Elite toxic?
I think to an extent.
I would love to hear an explanation.
Kenny's always the GOAT. The Bucks are the best tag team. Don't give a fuck. But yes, they're probably toxic in some point.
Like I said earlier, both parties are at fault. The Elite are at fault. So Punk should have never said it like that, considering he was always saying, like, hey, you don't handle your business in public. He's always said that, and then he does it.
He did, yeah.
Yeah, way to
same
call the
time,
pedal black, man.
Tony Khan should have found a way to steer the conversation away.
Yeah.
The Elite, they made the choice. The Elite made the choice to go to Punk's dressing room, knowing that Punk was already heated and keyed up and ready to go.
Yeah, that probably wasn't the best decision. I mean, Punk did say, if you got a problem, come see me. Well, they went to go see him. They brought the head of legal. They brought the talent relations guy.
The problem was,
which is the right move.
As soon as Punk left, Tony Khan or somebody should have gone over there and stood right outside his locker room to make sure that this shit didn't happen.
Yeah, they should have waited to diffuse the situation a bit more. Because
I feel like it would have happened regardless. Because I mean, the Bucks, they brought management, they brought legal partners, and this fucker threw a chair. Whoever threw the chair, he didn't give it. I don't care. Tony Khan would have walked in. That chair was going in the air.
Yeah. They brought the dog. They brought Larry.
Larry got attacked by the door. Poor Larry.
I mean, Kenny Omega, the humanitarian, gets the dog out of the way.
The smartest move in the entire fight.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's got to be a camera in there somewhere. This footage has to be leaked. This is like Dark Side of the Ring. I understand, but I can't wait 20 years. I'm gonna be almost fucking 50 to find out who threw the fucking chair. Did the dog actually, get hurt? Did Kenny get bit? What the fuck happened? There's got to be a camera that happened around him.
And you know what? I pray to God that somebody shouted "World Star."
Lord Jesus. Lord Jesus.
This is John Silver.
It was Ace Steel.
All right, here I'm dying to hear from you, dude. You are as loyal to the Bucks as anybody I know.
Yeah. You know what? I am a Bucks supporter. I've been following them a long time, being from Southern California, following the indie scene. I'm a Bucks supporter. And that, like Rob said, we all have our biases. I'll admit I have my biases, but we're professional enough and adult enough to be able to put them away, use the thinking cap, use the pro wrestling fan cap. One thing I would look at when you're talking about the Young Bucks, are they toxic or not, is their history with other companies. How often do you hear wrestlers saying that they can't work with the Young Bucks? I can't think of
Never heard it.
anybody ever.
I don't think I've ever heard it. The only thing I've ever heard is like, if you're buddy with them, you get on BTE, and back then, a little bit now, but BTE would put you over.
I hate to be that guy.
Buddy with them.
I hate to be that guy, but look, I'm a guy with a podcast. I got my buddies on too. You know what I mean? If I have a show, if I have a way to show off my buddies, I'm gonna show off my buddies. But I understand. I understand how it looks.
Yeah, the look of everything, the fact that they have their own locker room, that's probably a big thing that people think about. The fact that they started the company and are executive vice presidents. I'm sure that's in the back of everybody's mind.
Oh, for sure.
The problem with that is that's in the back of everybody's mind as a reason to possibly dislike them. But in reality, there's nothing negative about being an executive vice president. There's nothing negative about using your own locker room if that's what you choose to do. It's not like they're saying they're using their own locker room because they're not one of the boys or whatever the case is. Yeah. I think they should use the locker room with the boys. Whatever their reasoning is for that, that's with them. But again, you look back at the history of the Bucks and Kenny, and there's not a long list of people who are standing in line ready to say, these guys are difficult to work with. These guys put off a bad vibe in the locker room. That's just not coming out.
I think that line is only one person.
Yeah.
Yeah. At this point, yeah.
Jim Cornette.
But I was going to say CM Punk.
No, it's Cornette.
Okay, it's two people now.
Two people, yeah.
If you want to jump on that bandwagon, I mean, I'm a firm believer that and I hate to cornerstone ourselves, but as smarter fans that have understand, the ones that can see through the film, if you will, the ones that are willing to look beyond the story to see the story kind of shit. We understand all this at a different spectrum. The non us, if you will, the non-marks, the non-smarks, whatever the fuck you want to call us or them or what have you, are immediately going to be captivated by somebody with a microphone in front of their face. Nowhere near as handsome as any of us, but they get captivated by a Jim Cornette. They get captivated by a Dave Meltzer. You know what I mean? By a Brian Alvarez. By a Ryan Sapp and all these other guys, or Ryan Satin. All these guys. They are willing to be absolutely persuaded by that way of thinking, and then now that's their way of life. However, as you can see, we're willing to decipher it and try to figure it out. We're willing to slide that hard bias, and it is a hard one to slide, trust me, it is, and say, who's really to fucking blame in this shit? Can I say the Young Bucks are toxic? Again, I've always said in a way that they're in a small sense, they're Hall and Nash. They want to help their buddies out. They want to help themselves out. I have a show. They're cliquish. Let's push my buddies. Let's push my friends. But then again, with that, I come to say, if you were in the same position, would you not do the same?
Right.
It's kind of hard not to when you're like, it's really hard not to when you get as big as they are, because, arguably, if not the biggest tag team in the world. How do you not try to put your boys on? Like, you're the biggest guys in the room as far as tag team.
Why wouldn't you put your boys on?
How do you not?
Then like, we're talking, they're sellouts.
I mean, they got Flip Gordon over by kicking the shit out of him every week.
And
exactly.
But like, the only reason he fell off was his own mouth. So
I don't know who just said it, but you're right. If you don't put your boys on, you're a sellout. You know what I mean? If you're like, oh, I'm a megastar, backseat to you, guy that I've known since second grade. Like imagine if like
look at Cutler.
I was just gonna say, look at Brandon Cutler
and
Nakazawa. Nakazawa's known Kenny for fucking 15 years
with close to zero wrestling skill for TV.
I'll say it again. I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. Both parties are at fault, but I think the biggest issue here is Tony Khan. There has to be blame put on him. And the reason I say it, this is not the first time there's been an issue.
No.
Right.
You know, a little bit before this, we had Sammy Guevara and Andrade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, literally a couple of days before the scrum.
Yeah.
Like, Tony Khan needs to have a more firm hand with his talent and just say, this bullshit will not be tolerated. There needs to be punishment.
Don't think he needs to hire any more help either. It's helping.
How come? Let me ask you this: why do we never get this in WWE? I think it's because WWE sets some kind of rule that says these things don't go to online, social media, Twitter, whatever.
They have policy after policy after policy after policy.
Exactly.
They have probably triple the HR power that AEW has. And because of that, it's a lot easier to maintain and to deal with this shit. But I mean, that's where you've been in business for 50, 60 years, you know what I mean, since the 70s. That's where that comes into play. You know what I mean?
The last story I even heard of something like this happening, it was like over 10 years ago, was like Batista and Booker T.
Again, see, it's one of those ones where it's like, fucking fell out of my mind.
I don't remember that. Yeah, I don't remember that one.
But that's where it is.
They definitely, AEW needs to come up with something like that, where it's absolutely unexcusable anyway, and it's like you get dropped. I think the problem is when you get dropped like that, WWE did it and they weren't worried about people getting dropped because where the fuck were you going to go? TNA wasn't coming even close to beating WWE at the time.
No, not even.
And now they're like, oh, well, yeah, they did. But it's like now it's like, oh, shit, well, AEW's around the corner. You know what I mean? Like Mandy's a prime example of they just didn't care, but they still kind of care because I know that they're trying to get her back of some kind. But she's probably caring. You know what I mean? Because she's gonna go AEW or go do her own thing. But I think a lot of talent that they weren't worried about before, they're a little bit more worried now because they can't just lose, big stars because those big stars are gonna help. It's not gonna crush WWE. Nothing will ever crush WWE, but it's never a good look when a big star jumps ship.
No, I agree with you. So we only got a few more minutes left, so I'm going to try to keep this last one short and sweet, and this is going to be my little ultimatum game. So I'm going to go person by person. We're going to start with DC. I'm going to go in like a little... So it'll be DC, Harold, Rob. We'll finish with Kyle. So this is exactly the question, and I just want you to answer it and give me a short reason of why you picked it. If you could have one or the other, and this is what I mean, a consistent working relationship with New Japan Pro Wrestling, or have Punk back at full capacity, which would you prefer?
New Japan.
Give me a reason.
Without hesitation.
Give me a reason.
There's more possibilities. There's more global possibilities. You got guys like Okada, Naito. You can do Bullet Club. You can do a Bullet Club versus Elite storyline because that never got finished.
Mm-hmm.
And whereas Punk, he's a guy who's in his mid-40s. He's already been hurt twice. I mean, how long realistically do you have him for?
Probably this contract.
I've got to think, the business side of me. And Kyle, you being a business owner, you can kind of understand that you got to think with your brain here. You got to think business-wise. What makes the most sense from a business standpoint long-term? Short-term, Punk, yes. Long-term, it's Japan all the way.
There we go. Business hats on you, Harold. You picking New Japan or CM Punk?
I was going to say... if you're asking me what I prefer, I'm going New Japan just because I would be more excited for the matchups and everything like that. But switching over to my business cap, I still actually say New Japan because, as DC was kind of hinting at, CM Punk's allure is going to fade at some point. No matter what kind of draw he's going to bring, it's going to stagger out over time. As compared with New Japan, you may not have a solid increase of ratings at all. But you have access to additional roster, additional staff, and then you have the partnership with a company that's been around for a few decades. So that
Oh, yeah, for
way
sure.
there might be some chance of longevity. If something doesn't work out with AEW, a lot of people can transition over to New Japan seamlessly. Maybe even help bolster New Japan dojo in LA. It's
There you
just,
go.
it makes sense on both points to me, my wrestling preference and business preference, I think.
All right, Rob, business cap. What are we going with?
I mean, New Japan would be the way to go. Because, I mean, not only is CM Punk's kind of allure fading, he's eventually going to retire and just walk away. And that could be in the next 2 years, could be in the next 8 years. Realistically, I don't see it going that long. But with New Japan, you have this opportunity for new stars. Look at somebody like Shota Umino, who's come over and had a couple of good showings in AEW. I mean, the kid looks like a damn near Tanahashi.
Oops, identical,
And-
if that.
Yeah.
And he's got this, you know, this star power that's in the making. But even going past that, looking into the dojo, look at somebody like Ren Narita, like studying under Shibata. I mean, Ren Narita can probably be the next, you know, killer Shibata in the ring. Like, you have this potential to develop these stars and have them coming into AEW and to possibly, you know, build up New Japan strong. We have endless amounts of possibilities to not only build just the AEW brand, but the New Japan brand as well. Because people are going to watch AEW and they're going to say, hey, you know, where are these people from? You know, they're going to go get New Japan World, and it's not very expensive. It's like what, $7 a month?
Yeah, barely $8.
And they're going to start looking for, you know, these guys, and then they're going to start discovering, oh, you know, Finn Balor was Prince Devitt. You know, he's the one that started this whole Bullet Club thing. You know, Shinsuke Nakamura, he's a, you know, freaking megastar over here in Japan. You know, he gets treated like, you know, what here.
Different perspectives for sure.
I mean,
You know,
there's
we had good old Uncle Alan.
AJ.
exactly. There's another one. You know, world champion caliber Alan James Styles. And I mean, he's had a good WWE run, but back to the original question at hand, it's definitely New Japan. I think we have the long-term investment and the long-term longevity versus CM Punk, you know, who's probably going to call it in a couple years.
Okay, Kyle, you've been the most pro Punk the entire thing. So, like always, I'm dying to hear what you got to say. Like, you're hearing about longevity of the company, the history and the lineage of the company, the stars that could be, the matchups that could be. Are you siding with that, or to you, does the impact that Punk brings and the possibilities that can happen in the now mean more to you?
First off, fuck all y'all. CM Punk all day. No, I'm kidding.
We get it.
No, it's New Japan. It's not even remotely close. It's like,
Yeah.
you never, ever, ever rely on one person. You know what I mean? Like, AEW's finding that out with a whole locker room full of injuries. You never rely on one person. You don't rely on just Roman Reigns. You have to create stars. Now, Roman Reigns is the biggest star. CM Punk can be the bigger star. But you don't rely on one guy ever in your life. I mean, there's a million dream matches, like what all you guys have said. I mean, we saw how successful Forbidden Door is. You know, and I think under that clause, I think if they can find a way to make sure New Japan doesn't work with WWE. But yeah, it's not even remotely close. CM Punk can kick rocks, the door, you know, find the door, delete his number, whatever. It's going to benefit a million times over because the amount of money you're going to make with New Japan compared to CM Punk. I mean, it maybe short term CM Punk's better, like within a year or two, but we're talking 10, 20, 30 years from now, like New Japan. Yeah, I don't. I think the question is, I mean, it's a solid question, but it's also kind of a question of, it's uncomparable completely because one person will never define.
And
I mean,
no, I'm so glad that you brought that up. And the only real reason I asked this question is for those people that are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikToks, wherever, where they are so sure that Punk could rule the world. He is the genie without a fucking bottle, and he's got his wishes. He's free, whatever. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. But the sad reality is even if, say, I were to shorten the time period between the Punk thing and the New Japan thing to say both of them only lasted 2 years. I hate to break it to you, but there was one guy for a while who ran the wrestling world, and because of that, that company actually lost a lot of ratings. And that guy was Hulk Hogan. Okay? And then he jump ships to WCW, does this whole thing. There is no gigantic star like that anymore. No. There are up-and-coming stars that you may not have heard of. You know, there were the guys, there was the Black Tiger Mask, you know, who came in and ended up being Eddie Guerrero. You know, I never heard of that guy from Japan. Nobody ever heard of Ultimo Dragon before he showed up in WCW, but then you saw the lineage. But that's where, I mean, I hate to say that, yes, it is a very obvious question. But then again, we are not of the normal wrestling mind. We understand business. We understand what it means to be, CM Punk. Well, bro, you're not Hulk Hogan, and this isn't 1988. You know, an opportunity to have a working contract, a consistent working contract with the New Japan, to have a Naito and Okada, a Tanahashi, even though he's hurt every fucking time I turn around. Having those guys at your disposal will literally help, not only, as you've all mentioned, not only build AEW, New Japan Strong, New Japan as a whole, but it helps enlighten the I barely give a shit fans to understand that when we say these guys were in Japan, they were this company. They may have been known under a different name, but a Finn Balor was a Prince Devitt. AJ Styles was still AJ Styles. He just I don't know, different color gloves.
A lot better. Sorry.
I mean, but that's you know what I mean. That's the whole thing. And then exactly how Rob had pointed out, look at fucking Nakamura, for crying out loud. The guy went from, hey, you're on, hey, what show's he on? To, holy shit, where's this fucking Nakamura against a fucking 60 plus or 70-year-old man, I think is Great Muta. So it's just, it's one of those things.
I think, so with what you're saying is like there's not really stars like that anymore.
There isn't. And as a guy who's got that guy's picture, even he's not one. There is not a Hulk Hogan anymore, a Randy Savage anymore. There is not a world taker over anymore. It's just not.
I'm gonna slightly disagree.
Okay.
Slightly. Roman. I know I'm gonna get shit, but Roman for sure. He's on another level right now. And
nobody here is probably gonna argue that.
The Rock and Austin were on another level. Has Roman been on television shows yet?
But hold on. Well, not yet because he's not there yet.
Then he's not. What happened? Okay, that's right. The Fast and the Furious movies. Okay.
So when you go and say, and you talk to people, and people are like, oh, WWE, is Hulk Hogan still wrestling and all that? And people go, oh, is The Rock still wrestling? And you go, no, but there's this guy, Roman Reigns. Oh, who's that? What's The Rock's cousin? They go, oh shit. What's he like? And then they turn it on and go, oh, this guy's, better than The Rock. Maybe not like, per se, The Rock is this giant megastar, but maybe people go, oh, maybe I should start watching. But The Rock's cousin's a part of it.
But do you see what you had to do? You had to piggyback off The Rock's name. You couldn't say, hey, what? You got to check this Roman Reigns cat out. Hey, you got to see this Okada guy. Hey, you can't. That's what I mean by there's no giant stars anymore.
Because wrestling's not mainstream anymore. That's why. It is, but it's not. It's mainstream to an extent, but it's not mainstream to what it was.
I love that. We have to talk about that one next.
In the 70s and 80s, if you watched wrestling, it was like watching the news. And it just is what it is. And it was everywhere.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Okay,
and then
okay. Shut the hell up. We're going to save that. Cool, I want that.
Edgy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want this whole thing to be an entire other topic. We can go an hour. We can go an entire hour. Plus, speaking of hour, we've hit our hour, and Jesus Christ, like, I mean, what I'd say, haven't heard anybody cover this topic any better than this. You know what I mean? There is obvious pros to Punk coming back with some possible cons, but if they're gonna do it, then that, plain and simple, I think the median of it all is Tony Khan, be a fucking boss. Be a fucking boss, man.
I think be a boss, step in between, and just tell them make up. Let's make shit happen. At the end of the day,
I'll get out.
To make a lot of money.
Hug it out, get the fucking shit over and done with, and say what you got to say, but apologize at the end of the day before you leave this room, and you're gonna be co-working again for 2 years or 3 years or whatever the term is on the contract.
And Mo, I don't consider us smart marks. I consider us sophisticated fans.
There we
We're
go.
not smart marks. We're
Sophisticated. Put your pinky out when you're taking drinks.
Boys. It's okay.
Sophisticated.
We have a refined palate for wrestling.
There we go.
We have a refined palate.
I'm stealing all of DC's words every fucking week for Max from now on. You were just finding them all. All right, so that's been it. Go ahead, D. Or Kyle.
Just to give a preference, as much as I sounded like a CM Punk fan in here, trust me when I say I will always say Young Bucks and Kenny or Kenny over CM Punk forever. I am a diehard Punks fan.
I love it.
Young Bucks fan.
Up, flipping, swipping, and pancaking over here, this guy. All right, so before we get out of here, something we do on Max all the time, we got to drop some plugs. Anybody got anything they want to spit on some game? DC, besides your... What do you got? You know what? I'm over here fucking with DC. You know what DC's got? He's got a date with Destiny. Promo Mania coming up here in April. He's got a date with the Demoness. And boy, I tell you, I've never been scared for... Look at Rob's face. I ain't never been scared for another man in my entire life. Besides your upcoming promo about, you got anything you want to plug, DC?
People have to find out.
Oh, Lord Jesus. I don't know what's in that, but when that man's thinking, it's thinking hard and it hurts the brains. Harold.
Are they gonna have to fuck around to find out?
Fuck around and find out.
Somebody's going to.
Oh, Lord Jesus, I don't want it. Harold, if these people ain't watching the two sweet click adventures, boy, what are they doing with their life?
Bro, who knows? But if you like food, if you like entertainment, if you like film locations, if you like events, mainly around Los Angeles, but basically anywhere we get around to, check us out, Two Sweet Click Adventures on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Do your thing.
Going right now.
Chicken wing. Rob, something for the people.
Oh, man. If you're a fan of screamy vocals and death metal and all that good stuff, go check out my band, Consuming Fire. We're on Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. Instagram, I believe the handle is Consuming Fire _638. Also, check out my other band, Grave to Fire. We're actually calling it quits this year, and we will be doing some cool stuff later on this year. You can catch us, Grave to Fire _638, to kind of keep up with us, to see what we're doing.
Isn't all that on Spotify, too?
All that is on Spotify.
There you go. Go get you something on Spotify. Kyle, for the people. When are you dropping it? When is this show dropping? Come on now.
I don't know. I would like to start immediately, but I feel like it's gonna take a little bit. So I'm hoping within the next 60 days I can start getting something going. I have a little bit of a fear doing it because it's not the fact that I'm like scared or whatever to record or anything. It's more this, like,
you do it right now, cabrón.
I love. Huh?
You're doing it right now.
No. It's not that I'm not scared. It's not for film or anything like that. Because I've run a business, I know how I am with business.
Time constraints.
I feel like I don't want my love for wrestling to go away and treat it like a business. You know what I mean? I love everything with wrestling. I've always loved it since I was a kid, and I'm so up and down if I want to make it a job. You know what I mean? Where I'm talking about it all the time.
That's why Retro went on hiatus, boy.
But
let's keep it funky.
I do love it. I do want to talk. If you guys couldn't tell, I talk a lot.
Hey, that's exactly what we're here for.
We get We get a retro episode as much as Brock Lesnar comes around.
Hey, when they come out though, it's entertaining as all hell. I'll tell you what. All right, Coach, I appreciate. You got something you want to drop, Coach? You just want to hang out? You just want to drop the Too Sweet for us one time? Hey, boy, get you one time. Yeah, there it is.
It's for
life, ladies and germs. That's right. We're going to try to come back with another one. I don't know what it is our next topic is going to be, but trust me, we can come up with some more of these. But if you want to watch more of these, all you got to do is follow Max Wrestling on YouTube, because that's exactly where this is going. God only knows where else it'll end up. For sure, it'll be on the Podnets, Spotify. There you go. I said that. Say that 10 times fast. I won't do it again. You're going to make sure to catch it on that for you audio files out there to check that. And, of course, again, it is youtube.com/Max Wrestling, where you'll catch this entire thing. And who knows, maybe it'll be weekly, monthly, daily, I don't know. But the only way for you to know is to hit that subscribe button. So, from the TSK to the listening folks, and for even those that are watching, we throw y'all the Too Sweet. We thank y'all for catching down, hanging out. We'll catch y'all around the bend.
Your life is toast. See how I'm written this boat. See how we go for a ride. Kill you, then leave you to float. Yeah, 'cause I'm a funny man. Yeah, I'm funny, man. Chase cheese and do the running, man. Bitch, please, I'll call 100 fans. If you diss me, they'll have you running, man. MCs wanna run a scam. Guns, cash on they Instagram. Zoo, expose.